Lior, thank you so much for joining us as always. We always appreciate your insight. So let's start there in terms of the legal options teachers' unions have. I mean, things may change with this new money, but what's your perspective on that?
So teachers can't do the usual thing that we think in terms of legal options, which is to sue. They cannot necessarily go to the courts and say, we don't agree with this, we want a lawsuit. Their main option is to file a grievance and seek an arbitration, and for the arbitrator to decide whether the return to work plan is appropriate or not. In the interim, because of the fact that this arbitration can take time, they can try to obtain an injunction from a court stopping the schools from starting while that arbitration is being heard. So those are the main options that are available to the teachers' unions.
Okay, so there are two layers, right? There's the teachers' union, teachers as a whole, and then there are the individual teachers. I want to get into the teachers' union and the collective. When it comes to any potential job action, I think you answered this, whether they can strike, because as we know, they just reached a deal. But the deal that they signed really doesn't necessarily reflect the climate that they're going into. Is there a possibility that they could do some job action, even a strike, therefore affecting students' ability to learn?
So teachers cannot strike in this situation. In fact, a strike would be illegal and could result in discipline against the teachers because, as you said, they have a deal. That said, in their collective agreement, there's a term talking about safety, that teachers are going to be kept safe. And what they can do is they can file a grievance saying, wait a second, school boards, province, you've breached that terms. Now, the other thing that teachers can do individually that will impact students' ability to learn is they can do what we call a work refusal. They can refuse work if the work is unsafe, requiring a provincial inspector to come in and determine whether, in fact, the work is safe. And that certainly is going to delay schools being able to open. It's going to impact children. It may be issues even with supervision of children if teachers refuse to work in that sense. So there are options that the teachers can engage in that may impact students for sure.
So that's overall as a collective, but when you're talking about the individual teachers, I mean, some teachers are immune compromised, for example, can't go back to a class in the same environment, or say they can. What's your perspective on their options, really? Can they refuse, or are they forced to go into the virtual learning, for example? We're up against the clock, but if you could answer it, in about 30 seconds.
Teachers, as any employee, if there's a medical condition that impacts your ability to work, you can deal with that. You can get a doctor's note saying, I cannot work in this environment, which would require the school board to pivot and allow that teacher to teach in a different way. So yeah, if there are conditions, immune compromised situations, they can actually get off work with doctor support. So that is something I think a lot of teachers are already talking about doing.
Okay. Lior, thank you so much. Lior Samfiru, employment lawyer, we really appreciate this.